We're grooving. Josh, welcome, sir.
I was grooving.
Can't hear you.
Oh,
I think you might be muted. Yeah, you're muted on your end.
is it his end?
Can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. There he is.
Wonderful. We can hear you. Wonderful. The world can hear you. And welcome, Josh. I'm very excited and very happy that you could take some time for us. I know you're a busy fella. You have been a busy fella, and I appreciate that you can join us.
Thank you for having me on. I'm honored.
You betcha, man. It's been a while. We first met, goodness, when was that, Harris? Back
Didn't even
in,
get a chance to mention that before I wanted to say, yeah, meeting Josh back in 2023 when he took a visit
yeah,
down in Nova Scotia, and said that he went to a PPC thing, I think, at that time, and
right, right, right.
there was a few venues that Josh spoke at, and we did get to meet you then and have a one-on-one. And since then, I've wanted to have more and share the world your story. And
Mhm.
speaking of Josh, when we bring people on for the first time, we like to get an origin story, and you're kind of right in the middle of your origin story. So I really want to back up to 2023 and really share with the world and our audience all of it up to this point and get to where we are now. So can we go back to how all this started for you? What it was that you recognized and why you started speaking, why you became this crazy person that you are right now. And if you can take us right back to the start, that would be fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess it actually begins mainly at the lockdowns and the masks and all that COVID pandemic ridiculousness. Um, but I was I was a grade 9 student. Mask mandates started around my first day of high school, and that was an issue from day one for me.
Mm.
And it certainly didn't get easier as time went on. But myself and young man you would have just seen in that intro video that I still can't keep a straight face while watching. But the Monty
Wonderful
Walker,
music.
Monty Walker is the one of the young gentlemen there that gets arrested, and he had attended high school with me since my first day, which was grade 7. I was homeschooled most of my life. Um, and I attended school with him. And over time, we decided that we were going to do something, whatever we could, to combat the mandates, at least in our school board. And so we held a couple different student walkouts. We had lots of meetings with our principals. It got to the point where we were having suspensions once a week, and it would be a week-long suspension, so we weren't really able to attend class. Um, and this was in the public school board, and I would assume that's 2021. And so
Ah.
after that happened, the convoy went on. We did a couple more walkouts. The situation was getting a little bit worse at the public school board, and mind you, this will come in handy later as I move on with the timeline. I'm in the Renfrew County district school board during the COVID mandates, and that is also the same school board, not the same school, but the same school board where both of my parents were.
Hmm.
Okay.
So after the convoy and after the mandates end, I decided to switch schools and finish off my education without the issues that I had been having previously in that board. And so I went to the Renfrew County Catholic District School Board. I'm not a Catholic, but I am a born again Christian, and I figured that my views may align a little closer with the Catholic School Board. And I came to find out that wasn't the case, and that was in the fall of 2022. It really started to unfold in November. That's when I was issued my first suspension after female students approached me. They were concerned about males using their washrooms and change rooms, and they said that they knew I had been vocal during the Freedom Convoy and whatnot, and they wanted me to take a stance over this. And so I, out of obligation and out of duty as a young man to protect, I obviously accepted their request, and I went and I spoke with my principal. We had a good, respectful conversation in the beginning, but that didn't end up lasting very long. Communication was cut, and they decided that they were not going to take my concern seriously, and they wanted to hear it from a female instead of me. And so I strongly encouraged one of the females to be brave and approach the principal about her concerns, even though I had faced all sorts of backlash from teachers and students for this.
Just to stop there for 1 second, Josh, just
sure.
what was the mood of the female students at that point? I guess if they're coming to you, they were fearsome, and why weren't they willing to go talk to the school board themselves? Was it the backlash that they would face, or why did they approach you?
Yeah, I mean they're grade 10 students at this point, or sorry, no, these are grade 11 students. There were a couple grade 10 students, and they're not dumb. They can look at the world and see that the issue they just brought to me is a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
And that's not something every female student would want to get involved in, nor should they have to get involved in it.
Fair enough.
And so they were concerned. They did understand the risk that did pose. And we're just locally, Renfrew County isn't a very big area. People did know that I was being suspended and stopped with the cops coming to my school during the mandates to have discussions with me. And at that point, I was with the Ontario Provincial Police, and they ended up taking my side during all of that because, I actually don't know why, because in the end they didn't. But
how the turntables.
For a short while, they did scoff at my principal and say that I had charter rights that protected me in my demonstration. But regardless, female students were concerned. I can't speak for every student in the building. I was new at that school board. I started attending in September. It was October when these girls approached me, and it was November that I saw my last days in the education system. And so
November of what year was that?
2022.
So you haven't been back there or in school?
I've been back. Not
we'll get
He tried.
Fair enough. Perhaps we'll get
we'll get into that later. But anyways, these female students didn't feel comfortable going forward, and I don't blame them. And especially after the respectful conversations that I had started to get disseminated throughout the school, and rumors started to fly. These discussions started entering the classroom. I had it in my law class, and my math class, a little bit in my religion class, and it was just getting a little bit out of hand. I couldn't go anywhere in the school without being questioned on my beliefs about something, which personally I didn't mind too much. If students are spreading rumors about me and what I believe, I'm going to defend myself on it, and I'm willing to engage in an intellectual conversation about some serious issues that we're facing. So that's really how that started. And over time, the school just cut contact with me. Teachers wouldn't talk to me. I was actually being removed from my classroom before I was even under discipline. I was being removed from the classroom and put in a separate room to work alone. And I was just given materials. And this is while the school supposedly on good terms with me. But then came the day that I showed up to school, and the principal pulls me aside and asks to speak with me and says he's heard rumor of a student walkout that may be taking place. And I said I was thankful that he decided he wished to open the lines of communication once again. And we had a very sarcastic conversation. It was very respectful, but a very strange conversation that went on for quite a while, where we were both being very professional, but neither one of us was giving what the other one wanted, and it was getting very silly. Anyways, we ended up ending that meeting with my principal telling me that if I were to have a student walk out, that the school would do everything they could to help with that and make sure it was safe, and that we were able to have a productive demonstration. And so that was where it was left off. I ended up publicizing the rally, and 3 days before the rally happened, I received an email informing me that I was um, suspended indefinitely under investigation for expulsion, and police were being contacted. And
Wow.
so that, I believe that was, when was it? That would have been November 22nd of 2022. I've received that email, I think. And
You're in grade 10? No,
grade 11.
11.
Grade 11
Okay.
at the time. And so that all happened. I decided to go ahead with the walkout. They told me I need to remove my social media posts. I declined, and they went ahead with it. There was a massive counter demonstration with people bussed in from all different unions, including the teachers union. They bussed in from Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. It was ridiculous, but I had a fairly strong community support network too. And the students, which was a surprisingly large amount of students, were willing to stand with me originally, until the school board contacted every parent in the county, and informed them of what was happening, and told them that their students would be banned from transportation to school. And I've heard multiple reports of students who were informed by their coaches and different extracurricular leaders that they would not be allowed to engage in any of those events anymore, and they would not be removed from being a student in good standing.
Wow.
So that drastically cut the student support I got. It was next to nothing, but like I said, I still had a lot of community there. And yeah, that was that. I got in contact with the lawyers, with Liberty Coalition Canada, James Kitchen and whatnot. And that was when the litigation started. There was letters going back and forth between me and the school board, negotiating my return to school, and that's where the situation really escalated in terms of the legal matters.
Josh, it's crazy. This is actually nuts. This is nuts. I'm sure most people that are listening to this at this point would agree that this is ridiculous. And just to reiterate that what you were trying to do was just protect your fellow students who came to you looking for help with this particular issue. And it's an issue of privacy in a bathroom. It's ridiculous that it's reached this level of why a school board would attack a student.
A Catholic school board, I might add.
Catholic school board. That to me, you speak to that for a second, Chris. That aspect of
I mean, I can't even fathom it. I mean, I understand this idea of, like, we accept everybody. I get that. But the idea that a school that grounds themselves on the scriptures, that, I mean, this shows me that they don't. They're Catholic, just in that maybe they get money from the Catholic church and stuff. But, like, as a Christian, I mean, how any of them can say that what this was is a bad thing, that it's hateful, that it's any of these things. Like, it's just sheer insanity to me. And then, like we say, to add on to that, like, this is happening in a public school. I get it. Like, one of the main reasons we pulled my kids from public school is because my oldest knows that he wouldn't be able to keep his mouth shut. He would have to speak. He would have to say something. He would have to, whatever it was, like, he would name it. He'll speak out against it. He doesn't even care. Like, he's like me. He's contrarian in like the things that the mainstream pushes, and he knows what he's talking about when he talks about it sometimes. And so, we pulled our kids from public school, that being one of the reasons. And so it's, but then to say, like, this is also went on in a school that is, in theory, grounded in the scriptures, is just, it blew my mind when I first heard about the story. And it's so there's the people who are calling the shots there. I would say, if we are to judge, a tree by its fruit, these are not Christian people, by any means, and that's just it blows my mind that those are the kind of people that are allowed to run a school like that. It's insane. I'm done.
It's a good. I find it insane. True, and I'm new on this particular path, but I just I don't get how a school board can do that to deny you the fact that you're an 18-year-old and you want to go to school at this point and they're not letting you. That's what is truly mind-blowing. We have a lot of cases where we're trying very hard to keep people in school or young people to be interested in school, and Josh, they're denying you that ability, and it's just ridiculous. After that point, where did it head? You said that it escalated, I guess, and where did it escalate from? You're obviously being bullied by a school board at this point, and not even anyway. Where did it escalate from here?
Yeah. So what ended up happening was a series of emails back and forth between my representation and the school's representation. They hired some of the best law firms in Canada to combat. I guess I was 16 at the time.
Yes.
So they decided after their investigation and speaking with the police and whatnot that they didn't feel my actions had warranted a expulsion, and so they were just going to leave me with a 20-day suspension, and I would be invited back to school. And so they said that suspension is up for appeal. Like every suspension, I have a right to appeal that. So I indicated that yes, I wish to appeal that as I was innocent, and the school board said, well, you can't appeal because you're a minor and your parents have to make that appeal on your behalf. And I said, well, this isn't my parents' fight. You suspended me, not my parents. I'm appealing the suspension. I was there. My parents weren't. I don't understand where we're having this misunderstanding. And so I spoke with my lawyer, and I got affidavits from both of my parents. I legally emancipated. I became a mature mind in the eyes of the courts. And that was a long process that didn't take, it was the summer of 2023 where it actually got resolved. I won in the Superior Court of Ontario, and they declared me a mature mind. And the school board was forced to hear my appeals.
Level of effort you had to go through just to state your case, that's ridiculous in itself, Josh.
And all along they've denied that it was that they were stalling by taking such a silly thing to the courts. What a waste of money and time. But anyways, that's what was going on the legal end. And so we made those appeals. I emancipated, and they held a meeting for my return after my 20-day suspension, and said that I would be allowed to return to school. I said, great. And they said, but there's a couple conditions. And one of those was that I couldn't attend certain classes with students who felt uncomfortable in my presence. And I would be sent to a room by myself like I had been previously. And that's how I finished out the semester.
By yourself? Josh?
Yeah, in a room with some materials by myself.
What, like a closet? Like what? They just shove you in a closet and just keep this.
It was what hasn't made the news is that it was the spec ed room. But
of course it was. Wow. So they literally, yeah, you can come back, but we're going to throw you in the special ed room, and
they were
you can teach
informally
yourself.
giving me an IEP. But
Wow.
anyways, that
Wow.
was the plan they came up with, and they said that they gave me a bunch of names that I was not allowed to speak to. And so I asked them, like, to what extent, where do we draw the line here? Am I allowed to say hello? Is it just no matter what, I have duct tape on my mouth, and we're going to both be humans, attending the same school, sitting in the same classrooms, eating lunch in the same cafeteria, walking by each other in the halls, and we're just supposed to be a bunch of NPCs that don't speak to each other.
That's crazy.
So, anyways, that's where that's the conditions they left me with, and I, in that meeting, without speaking with my lawyer, I immediately declined. I said no. Those are total violation of my charter rights.
Sure.
I have every right to attend class, and on top of all of that, after what I had just done in the public board, I was the only student I know of in Canada who launched a campaign like that to have students return to school and get away from the online and segregated learning. And so I'm not going to be the only student in Canada in a segregated IEP spec ed room because I dared to quote the scriptures in class at a Catholic
school.
At a Catholic. That's the quote of the evening. Dare quote the scriptures in a Catholic school. That blows my mind, especially where you are a faith-filled person, Josh. That's obviously a big part of who you are, and maybe you can speak to that before we move on in the timeline. What I know, you're filled with faith, and to be put through that through a school who you would think would be an ally on the faith level, how did that feel for you?
On the faith level, it felt great.
Really?
Martyrdom is an honor, and that's something I look forward to. Obviously, I face nothing close to that, but persecution of any sort, I welcome it wholeheartedly. I think the church will thrive under persecution, and we will get out a lot of the wolves in sheep's clothing. So personally, I do view the position I was put in as an honor, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to be an ambassador for Christ in a heated situation, with many eyes watching my actions, and be able to rely on my faith, rely on the Word of God, and rely on wise counsel through all of that. So that's obviously there is a personal side to it, where you have to recognize that scenarios and situations and whatever's going on, it sucks, but on the faith end of it, it's great. Which I mean, I got, this is off topic a little bit, but I got invited down to Washington State for the or sorry, not Washington State, Washington DC, for the prayer breakfast, and I was invited to pray, and I was in a room full of congressmen and senators and all sorts of people who profess the name of Christ, yet spit on him with their actions. And my prayer that day was that America would face persecution, that the church would face persecution, and that we would be able to glorify God through our suffering. Because it's been far too long that we've sat around with nothing going on, watching our faith get attacked left, right, and center by the culture, and by the politics and the government, and we've done nothing about it. And I think it's about time that the enemies that are out there recognize the church as a threat and attack it. Because the fact that
Josh is kicking down doors.
Wow, yeah, it's powerful. That's I have shivers just listening to this at this point. It's wow, you're only 18 years old, Josh. I just have to keep reminding everybody in this chat room and who's watching this that you're only 18 years old, and to be able to
got a girlfriend, Josh?
Yes.
Sorry, ladies.
Sorry,
Sorry,
everyone.
ladies.
Sorry, that's good. Lucky woman for sure.
I'm
And I'm sure
taken.
you're a lucky man too.
Indeed.
So Josh, let's keep going in this crazy ass timeline. How did we proceed from here? How did you proceed from here?
Yeah. So um, the the legal side of it is going on, and obviously we're making no ground. Me and my lawyer are on the same page. I mean, I made decisions, like I just mentioned, where he wasn't present for them, but we were of the same mind on that, and we agreed that that was the approach we were going to take. We weren't going to compromise. We're going to see whatever happens. Um, we had these conversations far in advance. He did his due diligence and warned me of what I was doing and the risks of it,
Mhm.
and it did end up getting to that point. I forget the day. Was it? I want to say it was February 6th of 2023. The new semester was starting, and there had been emails warning that I would show up to school,
Warning.
and I would, yeah. We were upfront with them. We said that yes, I would be returning to class. That was my intention, and that I would not necessarily be abiding by the conditions that had been given.
Mhm.
And that was stated in the meeting. That was stated in the letters. Nothing was said about it until late the night before the beginning of the new semester, and they decided to exclude me, which is a non-disciplinary suspension essentially. And they're saying that technically I haven't done anything that where they can put me under discipline, but they're concerned for the safety, well-being of the staff and students in the building, and so they're excluding me. And they gave me
One
a
of the things
trespass
that I
notice.
always found crazy about this is, what about your feelings? Like, I suspect in a Catholic school there couldn't have been that many trans kids that were, terrified for their lives, if any, maybe one or two at that. Um, so they've gone through all of this to appease the feelings of one or two or three people, while completely neglecting how you, and I mean, we're guys, obviously we don't feel and we don't care and all that sort of stuff, but like completely neglecting what you might potentially be feeling and going through this. And it's again like the irony and the hypocrisy that I see
Hypocrisy.
from these people it's mind-boggling. Continue.
Yeah, and that actually is worth touching on real quick. I mentioned that they gave me a list of names of people who had felt endangered by me.
Yeah.
When they gave me that list, I don't remember how many names it was. It wasn't many. I don't think it was any more than 3 names. I had to ask them who those people were.
Who they are.
Some
Yeah.
didn't
See.
even- These were students that I apparently bullied, and they started giving me these names. I'm like, I don't even know who those people are. I'm new to the school. um,
Wow. And did you discover that they were probably had ulterior motives in even making complaints?
Oh, totally. The offense was taken at some of the things I had said in class, and over time, and through seeing some of the court documents that got released from the publication ban that we defeated, I've seen some of those names and some of the things that were done. I've seen how the school had students contact me privately, and then take screenshots and report back. They were sending spies, it would seem. But I've got to see all that, and it's ridiculous. So there were so many ulterior motives going on at the time, and there was a couple, like you said. I know of a couple students who would have considered themselves transgender. I never wish to personally attack those people. Given the opportunity, I would tell them that what they're doing is wrong, and I think that it will lead down a terrible path that will hurt them more than anybody.
Mhm.
Uh, but I see them, although some of them are aggressors, I do see them as victims. In the grand scheme of things, they've been abused by their parents, they've been abused by their school boards, they've been abused by their culture and politicians, and it's ridiculous. Um, But yeah, there was a couple students. I know there was one female student that used the urinal. There was kids that wore tails and ears and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, that's where it was going. They were telling me that there was going to be an issue, and so they needed to exclude me, and they gave me a trespassing notice. I waited that trespassing notice out. The trespassing notice ended, and I believe it was the day after it ended, I went back to school. I went to my auto shop class. I had a student waiting. The doors, they locked the doors, I assume in anticipation of my return. And so I had to call a student who came running out and opened up the door for me. I walked down the hall, said hello to the principal, who just froze right at the front door. His jaw dropped, and he just followed me with his eyes for a while and didn't know what to do. Anyways, I just kept walking, went and sat down in my class. They demanded I turn in my phone. I said, I can't do that. I'm on the line with my lawyer. Yeah, next thing I know, they're trying to negotiate a meeting with me. And I said, yeah, I'm happy to meet with you as long as I can keep my lawyer on the line. And so they agreed to that. We went into a room, the principal's office, and he blocked the door and said, there's some people on the way to see you.
To see you.
Yeah. And so anyways, I ask him who, he won't tell me. I ask him what's going on, like why I'm in this room alone with people on the way to see me. And sure enough, a few minutes later, as I suspected, it was the Ontario Provincial Police. And they come in and tell me that I need to leave the building. I've been deemed a threat. I'm under a trespassing notice, and I will be placed under arrest if I don't leave. And so I combated that. I said, not under a trespassing notice. That's been, I waited that out. It's over. I'm posing no threat to anybody. They had been involved in the investigation before, so they know what I did. I quoted scripture, and I told them, I said, if should you choose to arrest me, if you think that's the action you need to take moving forward, go ahead. I won't resist, but I'm also not going to leave upon a request. And so that's what happened. They read me my rights, and off I went. They were going to take me over to the jailhouse, but they ended up releasing me in town, not like only a few hundred meters from the school, with a trespassing charge and another trespassing notice. And that was really where it took off in the media's eyes. I remember I went for a debrief with a couple of friends afterwards, not from the school, but other folks. And we were sitting in a Wendy's eating lunch, and the principal's son walked into the Wendy's, and he just said, "I'm sorry, man."
Really? Well, that's something, isn't it? That's a.
Several students came up and shook my hand and stuff. And they said they didn't even know what had happened yet. They just knew that the police had been called to the school and I wouldn't leave. And next thing they know, I was sleeping in the back of the cop car.
How many times have you been let out by police, either in protests or cop? Like, how many times have you been in a cop car at this point?
I'm trying to official arrests on paper is only 3.
Only 3.
I couldn't count how many times I've been detained or escorted out or assaulted or told I was under arrest, but circumstances in large crowds changed and I was no longer under arrest.
Yeah.
There's that, but
That's frustrating, though. Like, I'm giggling about it, but it's extremely frustrating that
Oh yeah.
this is
Mhm.
what our police forces are doing. You know, that we're paying our police officers to do that at this point, and
And yeah, that's
how can you
that's
not be
just
frustrated
me.
by that?
Those stats are just for me. That
Yeah,
doesn't include
Yeah.
all the other members of Save Canada, which quickly formed. Um, I mean, it got ridiculous. There was times where we weren't even at public events, and we just get mass call in, like, essentially being swatted. And
really? Yeah.
yeah, it got a little bit out of hand for a bit, but
Maybe you
um,
could talk about that though while we're on the Save Canada. What is Save Canada and how did it organize? I assumed it organized through this effort, you know, to maybe before we continue on with you, what is Save Canada?
yeah, well, Save Canada was originally during the lockdowns. It started in Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it kind of took off as just students in college that no longer wanted to partake in any of that. I met them online, and and actually trying to remember the timeline for this. I met them online. We had a relationship there, and then I ended up meeting them at the Freedom Convoy, and we kind of
Mm.
talked business a little bit more. I opened up a Ontario chapter, and anyways, that Save Canada ended up getting dismantled um, uh, because of the store and whatnot, and being able to have the rights to sell to certain areas and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And it got removed from Nova Scotia and became a federal organization. And me and my brother ran that, and that's really that those changes started to happen after that February 6th arrest that I just mentioned.
Mhm.
Because I was sitting in that Wendy's when my phone started blowing up, getting calls from all sorts of different networks. Everyone was fighting for the uh, the exclusive interview, and so
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. I ended up picking Tucker Carlson, which got postponed because of balloons. But I, I chose Tucker Carlson, turned down all the other interviews. Tucker Carlson got postponed, and so I ended up going on Alex Jones, and then 2 weeks later I went on Tucker Carlson. But
Mm.
um,
That's huge though, Josh, that your story has reached the States and people who are influential people have picked up on it and was able to share it further. That's a huge ripple, you know, that
Mhm.
that's good. Why did you pick Tucker? Was that any particular reason?
not really. Well, actually, I say that there was jokes before the media started reaching out, um, between different friends and whatnot, that I would be going on Tucker Carlson, and so just for the heck of it, I chose
For the
Tucker.
lulz.
Whatever motivates a person to do the right thing, if it's for the lulz,
Yeah.
then that's very much worth it.
But
Mhm.
yeah,
Josh,
that's really it. But it was actually that happened February 6th. I mentioned February 8th before that. That was because I got arrested again a day later, and that was at the National Arts Center, at an event we had planned long before um, any of this blew up.
Mhm.
And obviously, large counter protests came out. We got attacked,
Mm.
um, swarmed, and the police came in, threw us into the streets and whatnot. And then I was preaching the gospel at that point. I that we didn't really have any plans for that event. We were just engaged in the culture war face to face with
Mm.
all sorts of different individuals that clearly did not like us. And
Mm.
it was really my first. I say my first. I had just done that student walkout, but it was a first where it was getting physical, and I didn't really know what to do. I hadn't really done much of this before. I was inexperienced. I was 16, and I just thought, well, I have all these people here. I might as well go into the world and give the gospel. And so that's
Mm.
what I did. And the police told me that if I didn't quit, the sermon, I call it a sermon. It was more just getting shouted at and quoting a few scriptures and then getting punched in the face and then quoting some more. And the police told me if I didn't stop, I'd be arrested, which I was. They weren't bluffing. And
Wow.
that's what
Arrested and charged in that moment too? Were you?
they pressed several charges right off the bat.
Wow.
They said that I was going to get a disruption charge, which isn't the charge. It's disturbance. I guess the cop just slipped up, but I don't know.
Oh, our very effective police forces. That's fantastic.
Yes.
They gave me trespassing at the National Arts Center. They actually arrested me on a public crosswalk for trespassing and disruption and mischief. So.
Oh, they love that one now, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
And then they've since apologized and said it was all an accident. They didn't mean to arrest me.
Oh,
But,
of course. Did they rough you up too? Like, or was it just those loving counter protesters out there that was roughing you up?
The cops definitely roughed us up before the arrest. Afterwards, they were a little bit better. I mean, my hands were purple, but they roughed up my brother a little more because they arrested him that day too. He got roughed up a little bit, but nothing too bad that day.
Again, at your age at that point, when these cops, these grown ass men and women, probably are beaten up. How old were you at that point?
16.
16. Oh, it's okay. Let's continue before I go mad here. Josh, there's another aspect to this as well. You brought up that your parents were part of the school board. What happened to them along the way?
Yeah, so that is a sensitive topic at the time. I can share what's already been shared to the public, and that's they were removed from their employment. And the union and other lawyers are involved, and it's an ongoing fiasco. Wow. And it was it actually happened to both of them on the same day, even though they attended different schools. And so, yeah, that's
wow.
I would I can't really say too much on that right now, but it's there are articles you can look up if anybody's interested. Just Google whatever happened to my parents, and you'll see different articles. You'll be able to see the story of how that unfolded. But I'm not sure all of what I can say at the time, so I don't really want to slip up and say something too much.
Makes total
I'm
sense.
sure I probably could share more, but I'll just leave it to y'all. It's already public.
Yeah, so I think you gave a good sense to our audience anyway, our friends here, of what that something has happened, and it's all related to this. And what you mentioned, I think, paints a picture here. And it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible picture that it's gotten to that level as well. So we'll update everybody as the story progresses anyway. We've been sharing your story along the way here because you have been somebody that is making a lot of ripples out there. And we love to shine some light on light. And you're a big, big ball of light, Josh. Continue for us. We're now like probably spring of last year, perhaps, and your story has broken wide open, and you're arrested again. How did we proceed from here?
Yeah, so at this point, we realize, me and the others involved in Save Canada, our small team realizes that we have a lot of influence, and we're focusing in on an issue that really nobody else is, in Canada, at least, aside for, I guess, we had Billboard Chris from Vancouver, but nobody was talking about this. And after it was really after this arrest and a few other events that unfolded, that this became a pretty heavy talking point. And we realized that we were put in a position where we had influence, and we were going to try to use that for as much good as possible. And so that's when we started a lot of the Save Canada rallies. We did the education over indoctrination rallies, really putting pressure on politicians to take a stand, which, I mean, it's futile, but we had a couple different events. There was the May 17th event in Alberta, and I ended up getting arrested there as well. Y'all played the clip of that.
Yeah.
The Rebel News caught a rather cinematic piece of that, but
Yeah.
that was actually of all my arrests, I'd have to say that was probably the worst one.
Really?
In regards to just the stupidity of it all. They arrested me for hate speech, and being involved in a conflict with LGBT alphabet soup people within 200 meters of certain event. And so I kind of broke this down for them while sitting in the paddy wagon. And I said, so I cannot say certain things 200 meters from an LGBT event, but the LGBT event is a counter protest to my event.
Yeah.
What? That's
And that really hasn't been picked up on by many yet.
Wow.
That is dirty. That is a tactic that they can use to shut down anything in that case.
Totally.
That's crazy. That is dirty, dirty, dirty.
So then I actually, when I had been arrested, I hadn't said anything yet. I didn't start speaking until I was already in cuffs. So I had walked down the street. I met up with, there were several reporters. Rebel News met me there, and a couple of demonstrators, and there was Nathaniel Pulowski and Declan Friesen from Martyr Pulowski's church. And we met up and we just started walking down towards the school where there was a crowd of students waiting to talk to us. And I hadn't got to say anything yet before I got attacked. And while being attacked, I ended up being arrested as well, even though I had my hands in the air and didn't fight back in any regards. So that happened. I get hauled off. I'm sitting in the paddy wagon. While being hauled off, I start telling kids there's 3 Bibles over there. I give the most brief gospel message you can possibly give while being dragged away by cops. And even sitting in the paddy wagon, I was still talking to kids. And so the police come over and they say, all right, we need to know which scriptures you quoted. And I say, what do you mean? They said, well, what scriptures did you quote and what scriptures are you giving out? And so I'm like, well, do you want to go back and we can get some?
What?
I just had a whole wagon full of Bible, and I was going to give some out to students. I didn't get a chance to, but they said, well, yeah, but what parts of the Bible? I said, well, here, we can sit down, we can read it, and I'll show you which part. So at this point, I mean, I wasn't very cooperative with them. I was respectful, but after what had just happened, and the way they were responding to it, I wasn't going to cooperate for this interrogation about which Bible verses I quoted. I've been there too many times.
Why were they asking that? Do either one of you have a answer for me on that? Why were they asking which specific?
I bet they wanted to know if he was quoting Proverbs 16:18.
I bet you. So it was. They explained it to me afterwards. They said, "Well, we needed to know because of the hate speech bylaw." He said, "If you were just handing out the Bibles, it was probably fine. But if you were quoting certain verses directed at the LGBT community, then it wasn't okay."
Wow.
And so that's where that got left off. I told them that was ridiculous. My lawyer told them that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I threatened to sue their pants off. And anyway, they tell me, all right, well, you're being released. Hopefully we won't have to hear from you again, but you are, for the remainder of the day, you're being trespassed from this block, and you're not allowed back there. And they tell this to me, they tell it to my lawyer, and they say, as long as Josh obeys that rule, we won't have to talk again. And so my lawyer ends the call by saying, talk soon. I start walking back toward where my team is, and there's a whole squad of riot police behind me in their gear, and they're just inching behind me as I get closer and closer to the deadline they set. And I'm standing at the light waiting to cross into the area that I was banned from. And as I'm waiting for the light to change, the protest just crosses the street and comes to me. So now I'm like dancing on the line that they've told me I can't cross, and the protest is coming back to me. And kids and protesters, mainly the students who had joined the counter protest, are now quite intrigued because they've seen how I reacted to being arrested. They've seen the extent to which I'll take to give this gospel message and to give them the Bibles. And there's a total shift in the atmosphere there. And I start having tons of one-on-one conversations. Some end in students burning the Bibles I hand them, and others end with a hug from students who actually came out to oppose me. And so that was powerful. But then, like I said, one of the stupidest experiences I've had.
Wow.
But it was definitely used greatly. I know that while I was sitting in the cop car, they searched me and took everything off of me, but somehow missed my phone. So it was actually pretty awkward when the cop opens up the paddy wagon and I'm cuffed behind my back, but I have my hands wrapped around to my stomach holding my phone trying to get on Twitter. And, I just saw him. I was like, oh, I'm done. I just put it back in my pocket.
Again, top-notch police force that we have here.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it reached millions of people. I think to this day that was the biggest reach I had ever had was on that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
Josh.
That was where it went.
That day you just mentioned about, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, but you see people literally burning the Bible in front of you, and then people who came to denounce you end up hugging you. That's a huge difference of an emotion on that same day while you're being arrested, while you're trying to be whatever, you're trying to spread your message. That variety of emotion must be, how do you take that as an 18-year-old? I guess how does anybody take that level of emotion, that roller coaster of emotion? On the day, are you witnessing these things? Are you feeling the roller coaster that is happening to you in that moment? Or are you reflecting on it now, those moments?
I would say definitely reflecting on it more as time goes on. It was kind of hard to take it in. I was very mission oriented.
Yeah.
But no, there's definitely, even in the chaos, there's definitely a lot of encouragement to be found. And there's one story I'll quickly share. I've gone off on a lot of tangents tonight, but
just want to do it, man.
There was a young man who I met on June 9th at the Education Over Indoctrination rally, who had detransitioned. He had known me, he'd seen my work, he couldn't stand me, and he was actually scheduled to go in for his surgery, his transition surgery. And as he watched more of my work over time, he came to realize, he said he didn't necessarily agree with what I was saying. In fact, his instant reaction was to hate me for what I was saying. But he was intrigued by the extent to which I took to share that opinion. And he made an agreement with himself that he would cancel the surgery if it meant he got to meet with me and talk with me. And so he did. He canceled the surgery. And by the time he got to the point where he actually met with me, his response was just weeping on my shoulder. Wow. And he had given his life to Christ, and healed and moved on and been restored. Awesome. And so that there's been a couple different scenarios like that. That alone is worth it. One soul saved is worth it. Forget the whole culture war.
And it is a culture war. You're absolutely right. it's a spiritual war as well, of course, but is absolutely a culture war, and no doubt Christians are in the crosshairs in many ways.
Yeah.
It's it's amazing what you've gone through. It's terrifying in many ways, but the roller coaster is that you've been able to withstand is admirable as well. That you're still going as strong as you are, and you're currently pushing back. You're in a phase of pushback, right, where you're trying to get back into school. Is that right? We just had an update from, I think, December 29th or 30th from the news that we hear that it was denied. Is that correct? The Supreme Court held up their not letting you in school. You just want to get in school, man.
Yeah. So right now it's pretty complicated. I wish I could have had my lawyer on tonight to break it down a little bit better. I'll do my best.
And Josh, we totally understand that we're in the middle of trials. We're in the middle of things that don't say anything that you don't need to say or whatever. We certainly got a picture, and we can have you on later on to update you, because we know that you're going to win this battle. I think everybody in this chat knows that people like you win these battles, and the more you push, the more people you're going to wake up in that. So as you're talking, just tell us that's enough, and
what you can.
We'll move on. Yeah, do what you can. Okay.
So this kind of goes back to the whole thing about me emancipating. I won that appeal, which gave me. Sorry, I didn't win that appeal. I won that case in the Superior Court, which gave me the right to appeal, or which protected my right to appeal, and we went ahead with that appeal. Now, the appeal was for the 20-day suspension. It was for the exclusion. 2 different exclusions, 2 suspensions, and I think there was some other disciplinary stuff thrown in there, and I was appealing all of it. Now, the problem with this appeal is it's an appeal to the board, and my hope is that the board will find themselves guilty of wrongful conduct, which is obviously hopeless. We went ahead and we did that appeal. I spoke for 5 hours. It's posted. I don't even. I know it was on the Liberty Coalition Canada website. I think it was on my social media, but regardless, with the help of a few different pastors and extensive work, we posted a theological argument in defense of my view. And we publicized that because it's the first of its kind. Nobody's had to do this before, so we wanted it to be a reference for anybody who may need it. I spoke for 5 hours. I talked about individual issues, and I talked about just my beliefs. And we went through the Bible. I went through countless scriptures over and over, and certainly demonstrated my beliefs from the heart. But obviously the school board didn't care. They blew off the appeal and found themselves innocent and moved on. So the obvious next step for us was to take that decision made by the board, which, by the way, they brought multiple lawyers into just to which is unheard of the way they handled that. But they had lawyers to instruct the board trustees that were making the decisions. And so they brought all of that. They used all that against me, and that was it for several months. We got the decision back. I lost, and so we appealed the board appeal decision in the Superior Court, and we looked for judicial review of the school board decision, which was really the only obvious step, the only obvious way forward. And so that's what we did. That took place this November, I believe, and we didn't get a decision until recently. The court, there was 3 judges, 2 female Trudeau appointees, and 1 male Harper appointee, who's also the most experienced judge there. They ruled against me, said that I didn't have standing for judicial appeal or review, and that was where it was left off, aside for dissent from the Justice Ramsey, the Harper appointee. And he, in his statement, found the school board guilty of faithism, and said that they were negligent to consider other forms of discipline, gradual discipline, which is mandated. They went straight for a 20-day suspension, which is one move short of an expulsion. And so he did find them guilty of that. And this was the case we had been making through all these appeals, is that the school board was guilty of faithism. So somehow we've had the most experienced judge there agree with us and say, we've had the Ontario Divisional Superior Court say that the school board was guilty of faithism, and yet I still lost the appeal. And because of that, the school board wanted $47,000 from me.
Oh man!
And so that's where that fundraiser happened. In order to even challenge the $47,000 invoice, it was going to cost us several thousand. And so we put out that fundraiser, which I think it's reached almost half of its the goal we set there, which I'm very grateful for. We definitely need to push it again, because moving forward, especially after this loss, we're going to need every dollar on that wish list. So
I would. It's a great time to just mention to all our friends here at this point who's watching, either now or in the replays or anything, to please go to this Give, Send, Go. Get them up to the halfway mark, at least, if you can, at least at this point, and help him with this extremely important fight that he's been obviously under for years at this point. And your willingness to push back against it is admirable as well. That a lot of people wouldn't take part in this lawfare in any way. They'd accept it or whatever. And this is lawfare that is happening. It's absolutely is lawfare. But you're actually pushing back against it and trying to get into school. And of course, that all costs money. And I know Canada, the world, we're all in a very, very tough spot. I know it's a tough time a year to be asking anybody for any money. But if you have any $5, $10, whatever you can give to Josh, please go to
30,000.
30,000. If you
there could be somebody out there.
There could be somebody out there. Go and please help Josh in this fight for what he's gone through and what you're going to continue to go through, because you don't seem like a man who's you're going to give up with any of this anytime soon. And everybody needs help, and we're a very big community, a very strong community who want to help each other. And now's the time to help our friend Josh. So please go and help if you can. And I'll keep bugging everybody for the next little while for sure, Josh, to do that. It is important. And you're an inspiration to a lot of people of many ages, not just your age group. Older people are looking at you and saying, I wish I was you when I was your age, me included. It's very admirable. So please, friends, go help Josh out. What's next for you, Josh, then, going into 2025? Well,
right now I've got an invoice of $15,000 on my doorstep. So there's that. We got the $47,000 limited to $15,000 through the cost submissions, but they're still demanding $15,000 from me. So that's what's going on right now. But we have the Human Rights Tribunal case, which we filed for 2 years ago. Human Rights Tribunal's about 2 years behind, so any day now we're going to hear from them, and that's going to be a costly case.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, all of these are complementary cases, because, I mean, you might look at the appeals here and think, well, that was ridiculous. You didn't need that. But at the end of the day, it's cost me. It was at the risk of $47,000. But what I ended up getting is dissent from a judge where we now have the highest court in Ontario saying, yeah, that school was guilty of that. And so that's going to come in handy when we go to the Human Rights Tribunal. So although it was a loss, and although they're billing me, it's really necessary for us to get anywhere in the Human Rights Tribunal, because otherwise we would have got to the Human Rights Tribunal, which is a precedent-setting case, and which I can't express enough how important that is for the rest of the country. We've got something new here before the court. This hasn't been challenged before, especially when we have all these new bills about to be passed. It's going to help to have a case like mine in the back pocket of the people. But really only time can tell what's going to happen with it. But we need to have all these small, petty court cases in order to build a case to get to the Human Rights Tribunal. And so we're hoping that's what will happen. That's what we're looking forward to. There is more to share, but at this time I can't really share it. I wish I could, but that gives a pretty good picture of it. I'm not leaving out very much there. That's where we're at, and that's what we're looking at for 2025.
Oh, what an amazing story, Josh. You're an amazing human, to be honest. It's blowing my mind what you've gone through since the age of 15, really 16. It's just it's crazy. And I know that you have a big, bright life ahead of you, I'm sure, but these are definite hurdles that you have to get through, and it all takes help from your friends, of course, to do that. So again, everyone, go help out Josh in the Give Send Go. But we'll certainly keep an eye on things, and maybe later on this year or towards the end of the year, we'll get you back and just fill everybody in on the extreme victories that you're going to have going forward. I very much hope so. Please God, as my mom would say, as we all would say. Yeah. Is there how can people reach you now, Josh, besides this Give Send Go? It is Twitter accounts. It's where else can they reach you?
Yeah, my social media accounts are all still active, as far as I know. I haven't posted as much recently, for many different reasons, but mainly social media is just terrible for you. I'm focused a lot more. I'm still obviously fully fighting this legal battle, and I intend to continue that. But I mean, Save Canada, we haven't done an event in a long time. There's only so much you can do with a megaphone in the streets. And we strategically use the time that we have. We strategically use the influence that we had. And now we're practicing what we preach. And I'm trying to build a life. I'm trying to build a family. I'm trying to start young, even with the roadblocks in my way. And
good stuff, man.
Thank you. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So how much time I have for social media is very limited with my work, and just it's not where I'm investing my time right now. I don't believe that's where God's calling me at the time. But yeah, I
don't think he's ever calling any of us there.
I don't think that's where my attention needs to be at the time. I think it's an evil that can be used for good. We've used it for good in the past, but not right now. I'm okay.
No. Save Canada has a website, though, I assume. Yeah.
I don't even know if our website. See, I'm so withdrawn from it. I don't even know if my website's active at the time.
SaveCanada.ca.
It was saved. We had 3 different websites.
Go Google Save Canada and
just go Google it.
Yeah, the social. Really, if you want to stay in the loop, my Twitter is going to be your best bet. I'm on Instagram and Facebook too, but Twitter's your best bet.
We'll certainly share out the Twitters, and when I link update our guest books and stuff, I'll use your Twitter for that as well. And just to tell everybody what it is official Josh _A. Is it? Yeah.
That's the one.
Cool. Well, Josh, I very much appreciate your time. I know you're busy. I know even reaching you on social media is probably tough, but like you said, it's I very much appreciate this conversation and everything you're doing in this country to save Canada and spread the word that needs to be spread. It's very much appreciated. And I truly believe that one small ripple can create massive tsunamis in the end, and you're putting out a shitload of ripples, my friend. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. You're inspiring a lot of young folks, kids your age and younger. And as I've been watching the chat here tonight, a lot of older folks too. So it's there's not a lot of folks who are willing to stand up for the things that they actually say and preach and all that sort of thing. And so you're doing it. Keep doing it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And seeing you're both faithy people, do you have any final faith-filled words, gospel messages, or anything that you would like to say in this moment, either one of you or both of you?
Oh, mine, the scripture that I just pulled up the other day, I think I shared it on Telegram. It really stuck out to me, and it kicks for you too, I think. It's from Proverbs. It says, "Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for this is the way their ancestors used to treat the false prophets." And I love that. That for whatever reason the other day it just jumped out at the page at me, and I was like, "Wait a minute! He's saying he doesn't want people to speak well of you." Like how and how great is that? Like when we look over the last few years, like if everyone's speaking well of you, you're doing something wrong, according to Proverbs. And so that's it's
Beautiful.
good that it's good that people are bashing you online and all that sort of stuff, because woe to you if they weren't, I guess.
Final thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, for sure. I would not have been able to take the stand that I've taken if I didn't have a full understanding of the gospel, of the burden of sin that I've been freed from. I can truly say, no matter what happens here, I'm still ransomed. I'm redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, and that's a powerful thing to know that you're fighting from victory and not for it. Yeah, if I through all of this could have one message to the world, it would be repent and believe the gospel. Jesus Christ came. He lived a perfect life. He died. He died a death on behalf of humanity for our sins. He bore our burdens, and he rose again. He will reign, and he will return, and it will be glorious. And I'm happy to be on the right side of that, and honored to be able to play a very small part in that. And so, just my encouragement is repent and believe, pick up your cross, and have dragons falling behind you.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you very much.